You are going to fail, and there isn't a single thing that you can do about it.
Well, that was rude.
Let's talk about that. Wow, that's kind of a harsh way to start a scouting video, but it's the truth, and one of the realities of being a brand new scouting leader. But it's not all bad, so go ahead and let me explain it real quick.
I want an explanation, a reason.
If you're new to this channel, we're on a mission to inspire and inform new scouting parents and adult leaders. And the first reality is that it's not just 1 hour a week like you were told. This is the biggest myth in scouting. I talk about it in this video here, and the reality really holds true. Scouting, especially Cub Scouts, takes a lot of dedication from the adult leaders. The best way to think about it is that an adult leader will dedicate 1 hour per scout per week.
Lies, full lies!
Take me, for example. I have den meetings, pack meetings, committee meetings, commissioner meetings, roundtable, and all the planning that goes into those events and other things that I do throughout the week.
What do you want? A medal?
Now, I'm not saying that you have to be a commissioner or attend every meeting like myself.
Oh, thank God!
But if you want your program to be as robust as possible, you at least have to attend the den and pack meetings, your committee meetings, and the roundtable, and this all does add up over time.
It's been 84 years.
You do want to go to these meetings because they help you develop your skill set, which helps us with our next reality, which is you've never done this before. Being a new scouting leader, there's a fair chance that you've never done any of the things that you're about to teach your scouts. Unfortunately, a good number of new scouting leaders were never scouts themselves when they were kids. Now, that does not mean that they're somehow not as good as those parents who were scouts growing up. No, trust me, after a little bit of experience, those parents are right up there with those leaders who were scouts growing up. Because even if you were a scout, that doesn't mean that you remember every single thing that you were taught. You just have a different baseline than those other parents.
I'm just as good as they are.
You also have cases like myself. I was never a Cub Scout, and a lot of the activities that I have a lot of knowledge on are meant for the older scouts. Meaning, while I know the basic Cub Scout functions, I've had to teach myself a lot of things before I'm able to teach the scouts themselves. Now, I know the basic scout crafts like tying knots, selecting campsites, and starting fires, but up until this year, I've never been a part of a Pinewood Derby workshop, which is kind of amazing considering I've been involved in Cub Scouts for the last 5 years. Just know that there are going to be things that you're going to have to learn on your own. You're going to have to teach yourself. And some of the best ways to gain information is through attending roundtable, going to training like the University Scouting or Wood Badge, back to Gilwell, happy land, or subscribing to my YouTube channel because me and my friends will try to help you along the way. We are trying to help you along the way, and all that we ask is that you help us by sharing our YouTube videos with all of your scouting friends, because we want to make sure that you're prepared for your next meeting. Now, I want you to think about something. If you've never done this before, do you think that your scouts have done it before?
I've never done nothing worthwhile in my life.
Our next reality is that the scouts have never done these things before, and you need to have a little bit of patience with that. So hopefully this doesn't sound a little too soapboxy, but I think that sometimes we as adult leaders forget that our scouts have never done this before. We sometimes forget that so-called basic knowledge had to be learned over the course of our entire lifetime.
They took an entire lifetime of training.
There's this cognitive bias term that I've heard over the last couple of years called the curse of knowledge.
You're not the only one cursed with knowledge.
It's common for people to believe that everyone has the same basic knowledge and that they are somehow insulting or talking down to someone by explaining the basics of a task or procedure.
We call that mansplaining.
In Cub Scouts, you are going to have to break things down to the absolute lowest level because our Cub Scouts have never done this before, and they don't have that basic knowledge that you do. And point of clarification, yes, you should also do this with your older scouts who are in Scouts BSA. Just want to put that out there. Mostly because even if the scouts have learned something in the past, that does not mean that they've retained it for the long term. Which brings us to our next reality, which is that you're going to have to reteach things, And you're going to have to learn to teach things in multiple different ways in order to make them stick.
Oh, okay. Ooh, well, so you want to do it the hard way, huh?
You're going to have to teach things over and over and over and over again, and revisit a lot of the same topics. If you look at the Cub Scout handbooks, if you kind of stack them on top of one another and put their activities next to them, you'll notice that everything is a gradual revisiting and building upon those different baselines. Like, that information starts out very, very, very basic and then moves up into Scouts actually being able to learn and do the action itself. I know very few people who can hear something or see something and be able to lock it into their memory for the rest of their life.
I remember everything you taught me. Everything.
There's this term that I've picked up over the last couple of years that has to do with currency and proficiency. Currency is how often you've seen something and the last time that you've actually accomplished it. For example, when was the last time that you tied a sheep shank from memory?
Just tie me a sheep shank.
Proficiency is how well can you perform the task. If you ask me to tie a square knot, there's a chance that I will have a high proficiency in being able to do that. Now, if you ask me to tie a woggle from memory, I'm gonna have to look at a diagram. Even though I've made hundreds of woggles in the last couple of years, I still forget because it's a very complex knot and I just don't do it that often. Now take that same mindset and think to yourself, how difficult it must be for a scout to tie a bowline if they've only practiced it 4 or 5 times within the last year. Yeah, they're not going to be very good at it, and you are going to have to come back, re-engage with them, and just have them practice it until it sticks.
Sheep shank, bowline, clove hitch.
Which brings us to our final point, and that is you are going to fail. Your scouts are going to fail, and there's not going to be anything that either of you can do about it. In many ways, we put our scouts into situations where they can fail so that they can learn. Failure is sometimes a much better teacher than success. I know it can be hard for you to let your scouts, especially if they're your own kids, fail. We do not like to see our kids fail, but it is necessary in life for our kids to learn and also be able to deal with failure and recover from it. Just know that it's okay to fail. I failed the other day. I bought the wrong nails for our building project, and that put it off a whole nother week. It's okay. You are going to be okay. Your scouts are going to be okay. We and our scouts are going to have another opportunity to try again. As long as you've done your best, that's all that we can ask of you. And in case nobody has said this to you recently, I want to thank you for all that you do for scouting and for your scouts. And with that, I've been Matt with Roaming Scouter, and I'll see you out there.